Well, it's not like there's really been a lot of confusion about this through the years, but one thing that happened this spring was Kirby sat down with Chris Lowe over at ESPN to do a longer interview. Of course, why did he sit down with Chris Lowe? Where do you think the money's coming from? You think it's coming from newspapers? You think it's coming from ESPN? You think it's coming from Disney? You think that's how? You think that's how Georgia gets paid? That's how they get paid. Anyway, the most correct eye-opening, I don't know about eye-opening, but the correct comment from Kirby was, I was brought here to win championships. So whenever there's any discussion about uh, pressure or uh, the motivation or anything like that, the whole point of Kirby leaving Alabama, which he was going to do at some point or another anyway, the whole point of him leaving Alabama to go to Georgia was for one thing and one thing only. It was to win national championships. Now, I'm saying the national part, he said championships, but at this stage, they're basically the same thing. I mean, SEC championships are awesome. They do not grow on trees. Georgia's got the second most in the history of the league. It's really important, but the the way things have adjusted now in college football, really, this is about are you winning national championships or not, particularly at Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, um, places like that. Are you getting it done the way that you need to justify your being the head coach at those places? $13 million a year. I mean, I don't think that's too much. I don't think that's too little. I think it's somewhere in the universe of correct. But I think with that comes an expectation of we're not just paying you to pay you. I mean, it's great what you've done. You've dominated our rivals. You dominated Georgia Tech. You got one loss against them. You dominated the Gators. You got one loss against them. You dominated Auburn. You got one loss against them. I mean, Mark Richt dominated Auburn. Mark Richt dominated Georgia Tech. Mark Richt did not dominate the Gators, but that was a different time at Florida. He'd be dominating them right now. I can tell you that. What Mark didn't do was win the national championship. And for it being so difficult looking, Georgia made it look easy in 2022. I mean, that season, well, in 2021 as well. I mean, if you think about the Clemson game, they were the better team the bulk of the night. I mean, I would say the whole night. They just scored touchdowns. That shows how good. And that's a lesson to be paying attention to from here on out, as far as Clemson's concerned. You know, Georgia should win that game in 2024. The game we're coming up, Georgia's next game. But the Clemson defense is good now, and maybe their offense is not as goofed up as we think. I don't know, but this is not about that. The point of Kirby going to Georgia was to win national championships. Could he have done that had he gone to Carolina? Could he have done that had he gone to Tennessee? Could he have done that earlier in his career had he gone to Auburn? It'd have been tough at Carolina. It would have been really hard at South Carolina to win the national championship. I mean, I don't see it. Steve Spurrier did an outstanding job. He never won the conference there. At Tennessee, could Kirby do it? I think he'd just be more of a problem for Georgia than elevation of Tennessee. I think Josh Heupel's done a great job there. Generally speaking, he's a capable head coach. Will he ever win the national championship? I don't think so, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility either. And then you start talking about Auburn. He'd been going head to head with Kirby. Starting in 2013. That'd be 10 full. Well, at this point, 11 seasons. That'd be a challenging uh, row to hoe for Kirby. Georgia's a different situation. I mean, in many ways, the marrying of Kirby back with Georgia, a lot of this is circumstantial. I mean, if there's two things going on at the same time here, probably more than that. Georgia, Texas, LSU, Alabama, places like that, they're always going to attract great coaches because you can win big at those places. You can't really win big at South Carolina. To some degree, I think that's why Dabo's done such a great job for what he's done at Clemson. It's hard to really win big there, and you're seeing that now with them. Um, and I would argue to some degree it's really hard to win big at Auburn too, but that doesn't mean you can't. I'm just saying it's really hard to do it. circumstantially, Kirby played at football at Georgia. Steve Spurrier played football at Florida. That's Phil Fulmer was at Tennessee. So some of this stuff is circumstantial. It's not on purpose. Um, that's A. B. It's just such a great job, Georgia. And going back to the circumstantial thing I said a minute ago, you think back to the Mikes at Alabama. I mean, excluding Mike Price, you had Mike DeBose played at Alabama. You had uh, Mike Shula played at Alabama. Bill Curry, who played at Tech, was a great fit there. They ran him out of town. But the two Mikes, who were two of the three Mikes who were at Alabama, they were not. It didn't work. So this doesn't always work. I mean, it just doesn't. You look at Juwan Howard at, oh my gosh, guy's last name wrong, at Michigan, the basketball coach. It worked for Jim Harbaugh. It did not work for him. So there's no certainty that these things work. But would Kirby Smart, who did not go to Georgia, be would he have the same caress for the program? Would he have the same loyalty? Would he have the same passion? No, he would have a lot of passion, but it wouldn't be the same thing. His wife played at Georgia. I mean, she played 100+ games for Andy Landers. They all know them. This is not a new thing. And so I think, to me, that there's two things that happen here at once. And one thing why the championships happen eventually, it was Kirby. There's no question. But I think that when I say it was Kirby, he knew enough people there at Georgia. He knew enough boosters. He knew enough, folks that mattered, to where eventually they listened and said, look, y'all, we can't do it the way we're doing right now and really expect to win the national championship. We need this. We need X, Y, Z. And he didn't, my understanding of it, he didn't just say it. He went and helped try to procure those things. And I can report with 100% certainty, it was not always like that at the beginning. It took a little bit of time. And, the people that are still at Georgia are still at Georgia. I mean, like, not much has changed. And so it took some changing of the minds of people who are still there, or not changing the minds necessarily, but make them see, oh, we really do need this. We really do need a helicopter. Time matters. And the thing that I've been told that Kirby is really the best at more than anything is time management. I'm sure that makes him a good football coach, but I think that beyond that, it's he really does a good job at that particularly. But he was brought to Athens to win championships. Now, you got two under your belt, and at this stage, something that's not a national championship, people aren't going to celebrate winning the conference the way that they did. I mean, Kirby's won 2 league championships. That's a lot, by the way. I mean, Mark won 2 in 8 years. Mark won 2 in 5 seasons. He was the toast of the town. That 7 team should have been able to play for the national championship. The 12 team almost did. The 2 team never got a chance to, right? Kirby's teams have lost SEC championships and gone on to win national championship. Okay, so the parameters are different, but the product on the field is different too. There's no confusion about almost I would say 80, 90, 85% of the time, there's no confusion about who's going to win the game. It's going to be Georgia. But there's at least 1 or 2 games a season where you're going, are they going to win this game? And so we'll see this fall. It will probably be more than 1 or 2 just because of who they're dealing with. But he was brought in to win it all, y'all. Don't feel sorry for him. You shouldn't. And this is not me running him down. This is like having a serious conversation. The point of this channel is to be real and to be honest. We're not going to sugarcoat things. There's no pom-poms here. We're not cheering on, things. We're not cheering against things. We're just telling you what it is as we see it. Now, you got other folks, and it's their prerogative. And a lot of people that cover this beat, they do a good job. But there's a lot of cheerleading. We're not really going to do that here. That's not what we do. That's not the point of Dawg Post. The point of Kirby being at Georgia is to win national championships. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with judging him by how many you win because, y'all, he's not in a position now we're not wondering, he's probably right now the greatest coach at Georgia that they've ever had. Okay. A. B, in my view, he has the capability of being either the best or second best college football coach of all time. That's what I'm going to judge him against. Okay, all this other stuff, there's going to be things all the time that I think he's missed on, or he overdid it, or he underdid it, or whatever. That's just my opinion. But at the end of the day, with all of the little things add up, it's going to be how many big things did you hoist in the air? How many times did you put a trophy in the air? A national championship trophy, because that's really when people look back, people are not going to really talk a lot about Nick Saban's 2023 season. It was a lot. There was a lot to digest in that year. Okay. And Nick did a lot right in 2023. He won the SEC championship when they really didn't have a lot of business winning that thing. If you look back in September, man, that the program was quickly written off by a lot of folks. And they looked bad, but he got it right. But people won't talk about that. They'll talk about 2020, 2017. They'll talk about 9, 11, 12. That's what they'll talk about in 15. They will not talk about getting blown out by Clemson in 18. They will not talk about losing to Clemson on the last play of the game in 16. They will not talk about losing to Georgia in 21. They will not talk about 22, watching Georgia thump their way to the national championship. They will not talk about 19, when LSU was essentially the combination of LSU and Georgia, the combination of Joe Burrow and Kirby Smart's Georgia, basically ended the Nick Saban tenure with a whimper rather than a wham. And people, that's just what it's going to be. So for Kirby, people won't write about 23. I know, as a person who's written books about Georgia, unless something strange comes up, there's no market for it. People don't care about it. Now, 2020 was a different ballgame because it was so strange. And in Georgia's cases, it led to back-to-back national championships. 23 may well lead to national championships. I don't know. But I can tell you right now, the reason that the thing that Kirby will be judged upon is winning national championships or not, and how many will he do. He's not saying that, but he's all but saying that. I am saying that.